Guess who's back? It's the Philadelphia 76ers and Tyrese Maxey after getting their first win of the season last night. Did the Sixers find out who they are? Did they place their identity? Or did they not? We'll discuss it coming up.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, you are Locked On Philadelphia 76ers. I'm Kayla Santiago alongside Keith Pompey after a very exciting game last night, and we're going to break it all down for you. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Make sure you sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On 76ers newsletter. So we're going to dive into everything, the overall analysis of the game last night. The Philadelphia 76ers get their first win of the season, 118-114 in overtime over the Indiana Pacers. And how about Tyrese Maxey? Mad Max, we're going to call him, because he was ready to go, getting a season high with 45 points. And then breaking down Caleb Martin. Is he the exact player that the Philadelphia 76ers needed? Well, last night it did look like that. But Keith, I want to bring up first and foremost, I'm hyped up. I'm excited about this. It was a thrilling game, to say the least. A little bit messy at times, goes into overtime, and Philly comes out on top. There's been a lot of talk about the Philadelphia 76ers trying to find their identity at this point of the season. It's still early on. Do you feel like this game solidified it a little bit more, or is there still a lot to prove throughout the squad currently?
You know what? That's a great question. I don't know if they found their identity as a group, because I feel like when Joel Embiid and Paul George comes in, it's going to change a little bit. But what they did do is I think that this group is proven that it can be a resilient group. You know, the way that they were able to come back, right? I think that the coach is learning more what people can do. Like a guy like Eric Gordon, a guy who basically he never really did much for it. Like he just like, okay, Eric is out there. Well, he gave him the most minutes that he had, and he had his best game. Like Caleb Martin, he realized that he can play point forward. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know if Joel and Paul George weren't playing, yes, they found their identity. But right now, I think it gives the coach a better idea how to utilize these role players that's going to help the team.
And I will say, I don't think the team necessarily found their identity yet. It's one game that they won, and I'm so hyped that they won it, but at the same time, it's still a long season, and they're going to figure that out as they go. Who I do think found their identity, though, was Tyrese Maxey. A very, very tough first two games trying to figure out, is he doing too much? Is he doing too little? We'll get to that in the next segment, but I think Tyrese Maxey found his identity. It was so fun to see last night, him getting all typed up, saying, this is my team, let's go. And I was so ready for it. But, you know, we can all center this around Tyrese Maxey, but we have to look at the other pieces that helped out this team too. And I'm going to point out, Mr. I'm the best rebounder ever to exist on planet Earth in Andre Drummond. He currently leads the league right now with 39 rebounds. He had 17 last night, along with 9 points. This is exactly what the Philadelphia 76ers need. And Drummond is not necessarily a starting center all throughout the season for any NBA team. But what I can't wait for is when he gets an opportunity to back up Joel Embiid, and he's putting up rebound numbers like it past those two guys.
Oh, no doubt. Like, I mean, the crazy part is it's going to be like, you mean to tell me that he's going to the bench? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but he is putting up rebounding numbers. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like, you know, you're watching the game, you see him grab rebounds, and you're like, okay, he got another one. But then at the end of the game, you look at the box score and you're saying to yourself, what? He has 17 boards? What? He did this? What? He did that? So, yeah, he's playing phenomenal. But here's the one thing that really stood out to me. In addition to those rebounds, you remember when they were down in the fourth quarter late, he came up, well, the Sixers had, the Pacers committed 3 consecutive turnovers in 3 consecutive possessions. Well, on 2 of those things, he has steals. He stripped Andrew Nemard, and then he stripped Halliburton, right? So Tyrese Halliburton, and you're saying to yourself, this is a guard. I mean, these are guards, and this is a center. How is he stealing the ball from them? So when you look at his overall game, he was phenomenal. I mean, on the defensive end, and Kayla, the funny thing was there was a reporter, a guy who works for NBA.com. He's been covering the NBA for 30 plus years. So he asked Drummond about how did he get the steals, right? So Drummond says, how long you been covering the league? The guy says, a while. Well, you saw me play before. You seen me play before. You know what I can do. And everyone chuckled because of the confidence. But look, you're right. He was grabbing rebounds, but defensively, those 2 plays that he made in consecutive possessions was huge in aiding the Sixers to go to overtime and win the game.
And it's interesting that you bring that up because you look at somebody like Andre Drummond and year after year, the teams that he's been on, that's something maybe you don't really look at. You're saying, oh my gosh, his rebound numbers are fantastic. Maybe he did put 2 steals in there, but are you really saying that? But I think with covering the Philadelphia 76ers, that's the thing that we really noticed and kind of puts this team on notice because it's been year after year after year of them struggling with whoever is behind Joel Embiid. And now you have a guy not only not afraid to go out there and rebound and bring down 12 plus a game, but that's going to go out there and get 2 big steals when it's crunch time. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is so awesome to watch from Andre Drummond. It's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts when Joel Embiid does come back into that starting rotation. But I feel like this gives Nick Nurse a lot of confidence to say, listen, Joel Embiid's coming back. He's not necessarily 100% in game shape right now, so we can still play Andre Drummond for a lot of minutes until Joel Embiid is ready to be back at full force and get that game time conditioning down. So Andre Drummond, I'm loving the confidence. I absolutely love it. Keep on bringing it to Philadelphia because that's what this team needs, especially in the absence of Joel Embiid. But you touched on it at the top. Somebody else we have to talk about was Eric Gordon. I mean, going to the cup, being aggressive, coming out with 15 points, coming off the bench. This is so exciting for this team going down the stretch because you don't always have guys, especially in recent history, that can come off the bench and have 15 points for you when you most desperately need it. Eric Gordon, we've been saying all along, we want to see him step up. He can be that guy off the bench. And last night he was. It's good to see for the Philadelphia 76ers. And if he doesn't have those 15, they don't come out on top in this game.
Yeah. He was key for him. Now here's the thing. So he had 15 points, and it's crazy because, he had 15 points and he did it in 31 minutes. This guy only averaged 5 points in the first 2 games, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the crazy part about all this is that his shot wasn't really falling from 3, but he made 5 of 10 shots. He was 2 for 7 on threes. He got to the foul line. He made 3 or 4 free throws. But the stat that really stands out was his game best or team best. Actually, it's the game best plus 17. So while he was on the floor, the Sixers were making things happen. And what you say is some people may say, what you mean, Caleb? If he doesn't have those 15 points, the Sixers don't win. Well, they say, Tyrese Maxey had 45. But what people don't understand is while he was on the floor, teams had to guard people differently because of the threat that he could make shots. And the fact that he made shots early, it kind of made somebody go out there with him and defend him. And that freed things up for Tyrese, another guy. So I agree with you 100%. And it looks like this is a guy, when we talk about identity or guys knowing the roles, now he has a pretty good idea of his role. The Sixers do too, moving forward.
And listen, how many times have we seen Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey put up 45 to 50 pieces and then nobody on the bench contributes? And it's like, well, why are the Philadelphia 76ers losing these games? Well, that's exactly why. You saw it last night with Eric Gordon. That's what this team needs going forward. Before we send things to our second segment of the day, Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, come on now, Keith. That shot was ridiculous. It almost seemed like when you do a little bit of editing and you put a shot up and then you cross dissolve and the shot goes in, but it doesn't actually go in real life. That's what happened in that game. It was crazy to see. And I was like, oh my goodness, don't tell me they're going to lose by that way. Halliburton on the other side, I mean, he had no points against the Knicks. He gets lifted by that. They fall in that game. He had a decent game too, just 22 points. But come on, that three, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was a good three. But it's weird that Halliburton missed some clutch free throws though.
Mm-hmm.
Like the technical we're going to talk about later. He missed a technical foul. He missed some clutch free throws late in the game. So he played good, but it's like I'm pretty sure he's frustrated right about now because he kind of like screwed up when they needed him most. Now, again, he did force overtime, and this was a great bounce back game, but he needs to polish some things up a little bit.
Yeah, and if he wants to be talked about at the top of the East, or the players in the East, those are things that he's going to need to be able to do down the line. But when we come back, we're going to touch on the man of the hour in Tyrese Maxey. I'm calling him Man Max going forward because he was on a mission last night. We're going to touch on it in just a bit. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and you place your bets as well, and so much more action with FanDuel. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Make sure you visit FanDuel.com. Tomorrow night, we've got some Monday Night Football. We should say tonight, actually. It's happening in just a few hours, too. It's the Steelers and the Giants. Pittsburgh right now, favorites at -5.5. And game 3 of the World Series is tonight. And how about Freddie Freeman in game 1? A grand slam, the first time ever in the World Series in MLB history. Well, the Yankees are actually favored going into this game at -1.5. They have to win a game at some point, right? The Dodgers are up 2-0 right now. So FanDuel predicting that this will be the Yankees' night to try to make the series 2-1. Make sure you head over to FanDuel right now to place your. Be sure to visit FanDuel today and place all of your sports bets because there is no better place than FanDuel. How about Tyrese Maxey? I mean, this was a fantastic performance. And the crazy part about it is he didn't really have that great of a first half. It was the second half where he was able to light it up. He scored Phillies 14 of his last 18 points in that third quarter, being able to really get them amped up. 45 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds he finishes with. This was huge for Tyrese Maxey, and this shows me that he can come back from adversity because it was really a tough 2 games trying to figure out who he was, who he's going to be without Joel Embiid and Paul George. And he said, everybody, just calm down. I'm Tyrese Maxey. Don't forget me. I'm still here. He showed that last night in the best way possible. He was all hyped up and ready to go. It was great to see.
Yeah, he was. He was. Now, the thing is, it's funny because he scored 38 points in the mission, but actually 35 of them came in the final 22 minutes and 20 seconds because he started off the third quarter by missing his first 7 shots. And during that time, he went 3 for 4 from the foul line. So that was his points. And then at like the 5:20 left is when he had a layup. Then he came down and hit a 3. And that was like he scored 4 baskets in a row, missed one, and then scored the last one of the quarter, right? So he played phenomenally. But it's crazy because after the game, I asked him about, his second half and missing 7 in a row. And he was like, oh, and he said, and then he told Ricky Council to come here. He told him to come here. Ricky sat right next to him. He wrapped his arm around him and said, this guy right here is like a brother to me. And he said, he told me, am I going to show up tonight? And said what I have to do and what I needed to do. And that motivated me. Then come find out that Reggie Redding, who played at Villanova, who's an assistant coach on the Sixers, he's assistant like in the player department, player development department, was telling Tyrese, look, man, you got to get into it. We all know what you can do. Do it. Stop thinking, just go out there and play. Andre Drummond said the same thing. I'm going to set screens. Just come out here and do stuff. So Tyrese, like, felt the love from his teammates, and that enabled him to get out of his funk. He's a confident guy. But when you're struggling and you have all your teammates telling you, you better not stop shooting. You better continue to attack. We have your back. Drummond said, I'm going to set screens. And Caleb Martin was like, I'm going to take over the ball handling and I'm going to get you going. So to me, when you talk about identity and you talk about everything else and you talk about love, it's kind of like these guys wanted Tyrese to get off and do well. And hey, that jump started, which turned out to be a phenomenal second half performance.
And this is where you look at finding the identity of this team, because everything is great and everybody loves each other when things are going good, when you're winning games. And yes, it is early in the season, so it's a little bit easier to come back from adversity at this point. But when everybody says that Tyrese Maxey is this great person and they love him and he's fantastic, it's not just people saying that. It's the truth, and that's a perfect example of it. You look at it and you're saying, well, there's a lot of people in that locker room right now that have to go up to Tyrese Maxey because maybe he needs a little bit of extra motivation. He didn't ask for it. They did it because they want to see him play well, and they know that he can rise above and play well. So to me, that goes to show that the Philadelphia 76ers are a very close unit, and that's going to be something that's really important when you have a squad that won't have your two best players sometimes on back-to-backs in Paul George and Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey, I think everybody knows that he's going to be the guy throughout the regular season when those guys are out. So it's huge to me that Ricky Council's going up, the player development coaches are going up to him, and Tyrese Maxey goes out and performs like that. Sometimes that's all it takes just to hear it, because I'm sure Tyrese in his head, and we've heard him talk to reporters and say, I've got to be better. It's all on me. I've got to be better. I'm going to be better. It's one thing when you say that and you try to push yourself to do that, but when your teammates are there building you up and motivating you to do better, that's just a whole nother story. Keep it clearly words, because Tyrese goes out there, he puts on a show in the second half and helps them win the game last night.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it says a lot about the guys too, because let's face it, like you said, when you're struggling, it can be hard. And especially when we're talking about a guy who's taking the majority of the shots. And sometimes you have guys on the team that's like, man, why he shooting the ball so much? Like, you know what I mean? I need to get the ball. Like, yo, run plays for me, coach. But no, they're like, nah, bro, keep shooting the ball. We're going to get you the ball. So that says a lot about the team. It really does.
And that's the cohesion that this team is going to need going throughout this season, especially during the regular portion of the year. So Tyrese Maxey, keep on doing your thing. 45 points last night in a big-time game. You could see on his face just how much it meant to him to get that victory. Sixers now 1-2 and looking to do even a little bit more. Another thing, too, I'm going to have to say this. I love that the officials and Tyrese Halliburton went up to the officials and was saying, what about their bench? What about their bench? And after Tyrese Maxey is able to score some points, Joel Embiid's over there with a rally towel hyping up his team. Once again, it just goes to show you how together this squad is. And even when your star player, people might be thinking, well, why is he on the bench? Why isn't he playing? He's being a leader on the bench, trying to hype everybody up. And Tyrese Maxey is the guy that is showing up for everybody else and getting everybody else involved too. So all around, Keith, before we go to our next segment, I thought a very good game. There's some things you clearly want to clean up, but this to me was super important because we both had them losing against Indiana. You win this game, and then you go on with two other games against the Pistons and the Grizzlies, and you're in pretty good shape against teams that we expect them to win against.
Yeah, exactly right, because I had them getting getting boat race tonight or last night after they lost to Toronto. So it's like, I was surprised by the fact that they were able to win the game. I'm going to be honest.
I was too, but hey, Nick Nurse, Tyrese Maxey, they figured it out and they want to keep it going. But we're going to talk about somebody else that is everything that the Philadelphia 76ers needed and more. Welcome to the show, Caleb Martin. Welcome to Philadelphia. Thank you for everything you've been doing, because it has been fun to watch, and he has been a crucial part to the offense and the defense for the Philadelphia 76ers. But before we get to that, we have to talk about game time. There's a super deal going on right now that you won't want to miss. And we're going to touch on football. Another Philadelphia team in the Eagles have a much anticipated matchup on December 1st against the Ravens. Right now, you can get a super deal and get ahead on getting your tickets for $549, the top 1% value for the lower corner, section 119, row 6 in the super deal. Game time has a ton of options for this game. It'll be Lamar Jackson against Jalen Hurts battling out these amazing deals you will not want to miss. Make sure you download and head to Game Time right now to be able to get these tickets before they do end up selling out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Caleb Martin, somebody that I am so happy is in a Philadelphia 76ers uniform. Last night, 17 points, racking out 12 rebounds. We've touched on him a little bit already, being able to play in that ball handling role, but this guy is everywhere, all over the floor, doing the little things, and he's taking it up a notch. That's what you want to see, and a lot of people have been saying Caleb Martin is the biggest difference maker so far, along with guys like Kyle Lowry, too, and I have to agree with that. Caleb Martin is somebody I was really excited that the Sixers were able to get and bring on this team. Obviously, when Joel Embiid and Paul George are back with this team, it's going to be interesting how his role kind of adjusts, but at this point, you need to step up and win game. It's kind of second fiddle right now to Tyrese Maxey, doing everything that he needed to do to take the pressure off Tyrese. And this is the guy that you want on your team any given day.
Look, I already think I know what role that suits him best. So right now, I feel like he's going to have to be their point forward. I'm just calling it out right now, because the thing is, when you look at all the things that he does, like he had 17 points, he had 12 rebounds, right? 12 rebounds was a season high. He had, he had 4 offensive boards, right? Which is pretty huge. He only had 1 assist, but he had a steal, right? But what he did was he was making sure that Maxey got the ball in the right spots, right? Now, again, you can also say that Paul George can handle the ball. He could do whatever. But I feel like what you need someone in there to handle the ball, to allow Maxey to get in space and do what he has to do. So if you have 2 wings like Paul George and Maxey doing what they have to do, you got Embiid out there. And then, I just feel like personally that the Sixers are going to be great. Like I do, with him holding the ball. Now, again, is he going to hold it all the time? No. But I think that he's a glue guy. He can get teammates the ball. He can do a lot of different things. I mean, you're right, he has been a great addition. So has Kyle Lowry. But the thing that he does is, if you think about it, the offense is so much better when he's on the floor. So much better when he's on the floor.
Especially in situations like we've been seeing this team be in so far. And we've talked about it throughout the last couple of weeks that somebody needs to take the pressure off Tyrese Maxey. And initially, Keith, you said, well, Kyle Lowry can be that guy to bring out the ball to help him out. Do you feel that Caleb Martin is now going to kind of take that place? I'm not saying that Kyle won't get starting time once Paul George and Joel Embiid are back. He probably won't. But once they're out, he probably will stay in that starting lineup. But do you see Caleb kind of overtaking that role as that point forward?
I do. And the only reason why I'm going to say that is because the thing with Kyle is, Kyle's 38 years old. He's playing well. They don't want Kyle to log a lot of minutes because they know they're going to need him in the postseason as well, right? So it's not that Kyle is being demoted. He's going to do it still, but I just feel like they're going to limit his minutes. And since Caleb is younger, he's going to handle the ball too. Now, Max is going to handle it at times. Paul George is going to handle it. But I do think that, Kyle is a guy that they were afraid that would have to play too many minutes, and they didn't want that. So Caleb is going to take, some of that from him. And also, let's keep it real. Like, if Kyle Lowry is if he's in the starting lineup, then you're losing something. Someone else has to come off the bench. But if you have Caleb there and we look at these other guys, we know Kelly's a scorer. We know PG is one of the best two-way players in the league. We know Maxey is an emerging. He's an all-star, but he still has a level to go. And Joel Embiid is arguably the most dominant big in the league. So you look at it and say, well, what's Caleb's role going to be? Is he just going to be a glue guy? So now you can see that he can also facilitate. So it doesn't hurt what you're trying to do. You're just getting him more involved. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do it that way.
It's been year after year where the 76ers have needed somebody to get involved, or when Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey or their third star just wasn't able to step up to the plate. Okay, who's going to make an impact? We saw it last year with the New York Knicks, and that's definitely a team that I always go back to because nobody thought that Josh Hart was going to be as impactful as he was until really the postseason. Now, I watched and analyzed him a lot at Villanova. I knew that he could maybe eventually be that player, but the way that he was able to impact, and Jalen Brunson could then just do his thing, Dante DiVincenzo too, no longer on the Knicks, of course, but these are pieces that you need, especially against teams in the East, if you want to make your way to that Eastern Conference final and then eventually the NBA Finals. But it brings up an interesting point because Kyle Lowry going to be on the bench when Joel Embiid and Paul George comes back, Eric Gordon, and Andre Drummond. When is the last time you've been this excited, Keith, about a bench rotation? Because right now I'm getting all chills, tingles. I'm super excited for this bench rotation because it's been a struggle for a really long time for this team. And you see guys right now making an impact, being pulled into the starting lineup. And when they get on the bench, they're going to want to have that same impact when they get into that rotation.
Yeah, the last time I think that they had a bench that people were this excited about was when they had Ersan Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli, right? And the thing is that neither one of those guys could defend. They were just offensive players. So when you bring in guys who can defend and can make shots, I think it makes it a little bit more exciting. And that's the one thing that you'll say about them having all these guys playing right now, right? Is that it's one of those things where you know that they're going to come off the bench, but right now they're getting experience to show what they can do as a starter, right? You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that's huge. Like KJ Martin, he's a guy that's getting minutes that he probably wouldn't get if Paul George was here, if Embiid was here. So all that's going to do is just, when it comes down to a game and somebody gets in foul trouble, Nick Nurse says, okay, KJ, I'm comfortable with you. Go out there and play and do what you got to do. So I think that this is benefiting them a lot.
It really gives Nick Nurse, too, a true sample size of what he's able to have before those guys come back. And we all know in the playoffs that they never really go too deep into their bench, any team in the NBA. So being able to have those guys that we just pointed out that can come in and make a difference and give the starters a little bit of relief, or be in that third rotation with some starters, too, you're already getting a true sample size of it. And listen, it's not the most ideal thing in the world to have that happen during the regular season, but hey, it's a long season at the same time. And these are the growing pains that they've been going through. And last night, it was just good to see that they finally were able to make something out of it. So Philadelphia 76ers, they get their first win of the season. Keith, now we're going to see them host the Pistons on Wednesday. Reunion with Tobias Harris. Do you think he's going to get booed? I hope he doesn't, but he probably will. And then they take on the Grizzlies to finish out the week on Saturday. Where do you see the Philadelphia 76ers lining up against these two teams, whether they have PG or Joel Embiid back, or if they don't?
You saying whether they have them or not? Like I think they're going to beat the Pistons. I do. I think the Pistons are a young team. I mean, I think the Sixers will be well rested. They're going to have 2 days of practice. They're saying they're not practicing tomorrow, but they're going to practice on Tuesday, and then after that they'll have 2 days of practice before they play Memphis. So I look at them to beat the Pistons, right? And then from there, Memphis, we'll see who's all going to play, but you like their chances. You know what I mean? You really do, because wow, think about this. They're going to play just 2 games in 1 week. That's kind of unheard of in NBA standards.
That it is. So everybody rest up, right? The 76ers are going to be back in action on Wednesday. They get their first win of the season, 118-114 in overtime against the Indiana Pacers, and look to keep the trend going. Tyrese Maxey, we love what we're seeing from you. Make sure you keep it up. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. And your favorite podcast does now have a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers daily newsletter, one stop from ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Make sure you sign up for free right now. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago. We will see you tomorrow and discuss even more as the Philadelphia 76ers gear up to try to get their second win of the season.